Hello and welcome. I'm really excited to be talking about a topic that so many people have had really big questions about. And when I taught this in my 8-week signature program, Thrive, I knew I wanted to also share it in the public, and especially because we are embarking on this 3D to 5D journey, and it's happening. We are in it right now, and it is happening. So as you may have remembered from episode 113, when I talked about reclaiming sovereignty from the reptilian forces, this is big work we're going through because we are navigating through a gnarly spiritual war, but the light is winning. I mean, come on. Like, God brought us here right now. Spirit, universe, whatever word works for you. I still call my creator God. But we came here during this wild time. I mean, 2020 in itself has been literally like that head exploding emoji, right? But we were brought here because each of us carry really unique gifts that are needed to help with the acceleration and the activation of this planet. And I think what's really great, especially as a millennial and watching the Gen Zers, the kids that are born in a new millennia, these post-2000 kids, we are increasingly sensitive. As a millennial, I see us as really the bridge between that Piscean age and the Aquarian age, which I'm going to talk about deeper. But the Gen Zers, they have completely different DNA than the other generations. And then think about these babies that were born post-2012. Think about these quarantines that will be coming out, these people that got pregnant and will have babies in 2021, during this whole time we were in quarantine. Our sensitivities are getting increasingly stronger, and we have to learn how we can navigate through it. And I fully believe that what 2020, and I've talked about this since last year, of being the year of crystal vision, we literally have had to see masquerades, and we're reminded by these masks that everyone has to be wearing to let us know, the masquerade that is happening right now, there's something bigger unfolding, and we have the ability to recognize and to implement and take the initiative of having that shift that's going on to be for the good of all, the true betterment, because this is part of the spiritual war. And I want to be talking more about the different frequencies and these different dimensions and spaces, because I remember when I was at a festival and I would tell people 5D is a trap. And when I mean that, it's 5D is not a destination. It's a frequency we embody. You are a multidimensional being. You're beyond just the fifth dimensional. We are, there's about 12 dimensions. I talked about that with my brother, Ryan Fontana. He's there has to be more. And, a lot of psychics and deep, I don't even like to say new age, because the new age movement has been infiltrated, but the golden age teachers and leaders who are really doing the deep work, that are the grid workers and the people that are very in tune of what's happening. Some are saying that we are activating even higher and higher dimensionals. Who knows? I mean, we don't have these answers. All we can do is continue to show up fully embodied in our truth and answering the call as to why we're here. And so when we talk about these different dimensional states as a multidimensional being, for you to continue to accelerate into these higher dimensions, you have to really work on honoring and integrating the lower dimensions as well. And I remember when my first day of Kundalini teacher training, when I started learning more about these different dimensions, 6 years ago around this time, I graduated, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this that I'm so excited to be learning more about. And as I've gotten deeper on my spiritual journey, worked with plant medicines, and just have done the work, I'm seeing the different layers and also having compassion. There's not like a hierarchy of like, oh, well, I'm like more advanced, or, you know, whatever bullshit kind of excuse or thing that ego takes over. But when we remember that this, you know, we have like the reptilian brain is really part of that first dimensional. It's like the natural way of that oldest part of the brain. And we have to learn to master all the different layers of who we are. To be a multidimensional leader, you have to know all of you. And I really do believe that this has been the gift of 2020, of having to slow down, of having a sacred disruption in the system, or, you know, we're dismantling the matrix of that 3D dimension so that we can continue to accelerate and evolve as a species, as a collective, as a community. And it's really beautiful because when I think about the 3D, for instance, I'm just going to dive right on in. When I think about the 3D, I see the duality in it, you know, like the good versus evil, blah, 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 blah. And yes, evil does exist. The New Age spirituality, which I'm going to be talking more about next week, about my experience of the New Age to Jesus movement that really took off and really kicked off this summer. But in another sense, or my experience of it all, what I've seen or what I've known is that a lot of these teachings, you know, of astrology and working with crystals or whatever, this isn't new. The things that are new is like love and light, and the pieces that we have to, you know, that say evil doesn't exist. Bitch, this shit is real. Like, it's happening. We're going through a spiritual war right now, and there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that's been going on in the community. And mark my word, right here, right now, 2021, there will be more disclosure of these new age teachers. I say it in quotes. These new age spiritual teachers that it will be exposed. And I'm sure majority of those people will be white. I'm just going to say it, but it's a fact. And we need to start to honor these other traditions that a lot of these ancient wisdoms come from, and do it with the space of reverence and respect. And I think that's been a lot of what this journey has been about. We've had to, if we can't respect other people if we don't know how to respect ourselves first. That's part of the journey, that when we have that spiritual awakening in that third dimension of duality, right? You have that awakening and you have that hit. It's you embarking on the hero's journey. The journey from 3D to 5D and beyond is your hero's journey. And I'm excited because I'm sharing all about that in my upcoming book, which will be coming out next year. My hero's journey of, you know, breaking free from the false light, dismantling the matrix, healing the inner child traumas, and really becoming a sovereign being, a multidimensional sovereign being. So I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned. But when we think about that third dimension living, a lot of the shame and the guilt and the victimization and you giving away your power, the spiritual awakening is happening in that third dimension so that you can come back home to you. And it takes time. The fourth dimension is ruled by time. And let's face it, 2020 has been such a weird time, right? It's been a weird way to navigate through time. And I feel like as we continue to awaken more and more, this concept of time is going to continue to shift. But what we have to master in order to get to these higher dimensional frequencies and experience it is we have to learn to manage and honor our time. And that's why I created Slayer Systems, which I'm really excited about, because I really want you to work smarter instead of harder to value your time. And again, all of these are in the show notes if you want to be learning more. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can scroll below. But we have to understand that we are navigating through like the 11th hour, speaking of time, the 11th hour to really break the mold and break through, pierce the veil of the infiltrations and the manipulation and the mind control. And as someone who's been seeing this since I had my spiritual awakening in 2012, you know, I've seen and I've had to work through myself, like the shame and the guilt and the victimization that I've placed on myself. And once I started doing that deeper work and then recognizing that it's a field and a frequency that's happening as I continue to accelerate in my reality, that this manipulation that's happening in the collective, and that's what's happening within, this is how I've been mastering my time, that fourth dimensional way of being, so I can accelerate and experience fifth dimension of unity consciousness, where I can unify my heart, my mind, my body, my soul, upgrade to this new chakra system that is really about, you know, honoring the lower triangle, my physical reality of healing my childhood wounds, coming into wholeness, finding that sacred union of my feminine, my masculine energy, the Hieros Gamos within myself, so that I can go forth and activate my true spiritual self and be in this new, you know, this 3-star chakra system that's evolving. Because a lot of these energies, for us to accelerate, we have to understand where the manipulation has been happening. And it's been happening through false teachings. It's been happening through, you know, if there's like holes, energetic holes in teachings or in our own field where it can go in and suck us dry and really take away our power, that shit is real. I can tell you 8 years of doing deep spiritual work where there were times I had to put my business like on the back burner because I couldn't give to other people if I didn't know how to give to myself. And it took courage to get to that space, but it is what it is. And so 3D energy, understanding duality, finding the commonality of the balance and the wholeness to cultivate that Hieros Gamos through understanding time and using time in that fourth dimension to navigate through it so that I can be unified in that fifth dimensional. That's part of it. And so when we think about this, the 3D as the initiation for us to look within, because we can be asleep for a long time. And I think what 2020 has really brought us is an understanding of compassion. You know, people have been reacting to what's been going on with this coronavirus that's been happening. We're all having different experiences and different reactions, and some people are healing differently than others. Unfortunately, some people have died. And what I've seen, you know, in this last week alone, two of my like family members, one of my best friends and my parents' best friend, they got the Rona. And to see how, I mean, of course, age is a difference as well, but to see how these two individuals are navigating through the journey where one has a lot of, you know, repressed grief and pain and unprocessed anger, and he still has a lot of it stored in his lungs, and it's been a month. And the other, who's been spiritually aware of herself and her energy and her body and nutrition and doing the work, how she's been healing and navigating through it. And of course, everyone has different health pieces and reactions, so I'm not ignoring that. But I'm just looking at like this case study in my own life. It's really fascinating to see that I do believe, and like I talked about when I came back from Bali, one of my earlier episodes of the year about the medicine of coronavirus before I took a huge break, is that this is the time for us to, again, master that 3D reality. We can't just like bypass it or put on the back burner. We have to learn how to integrate all these pieces if we want to be multidimensional leaders, beings, and really be fully present and embodied as the planet, as humanity, as we ourselves continue to accelerate into these new sensitivities and frequencies. So with this initiation, maybe some people, you know, had their awakening in 2012, and maybe some are having it in 2020, and then how to take them, like, you know, hitting a wall in some way. And the people who had their awakening in 2012 or, you know, in the past 8 years or whatever can help lead and support and being compassionate to people who are just waking up. This is how we start to master that fourth dimension of time, to alchemize that shadow into light. And when we can, see when our shit comes up, and I think a lot of that has been pretty prominent with this recent eclipse that we had, and the fact that this is all happening right before the solstice, which I'm going to be, again, talking about in a couple of weeks, the power of this 12/21/2020 solstice and the great conjunction that's coming with it, with Jupiter and Saturn conjunct by 0.1 degrees. Like there's a lot of energy and shifts that are coming, but again, we're not to bring this into 2021. And so if we can see what's happening, continue to do that deeper work and alchemize that shadow into light and really hold that frequency as a sovereign being. If you can go forth and stand in your integrity and the truth of who you are as a sovereign being, nothing or no one outside of you can steer you away from your inner peace. You can come into that space of wholeness. You can navigate. You're sensitive, and you're also compassionate, and just being patient, where everyone is navigating through this journey in different waves. And when we're connected to these higher dimensions, it takes time for our physical 3D reality to catch up. And I think that's really what we're experiencing right now, is just how can we really practice the art of patience? How can we really practice that what's happening, what's unfolding? There's a great divine plan happening to it. We just have to continue to trust and to be present and to nourish ourselves and to go with the flow, be in that state of surrender. And I think that's what a lot of the whole idea of 2020 has been. So many people had all these like huge ideas and things that they thought they were going to do. And the universe was like, nope, that's not happening. You're coming back home to you, where you are literally in your home, slowing down and reevaluating a lot in your life. And I think that's because for us to accelerate into this fifth dimensional state in this place of where we're going, that acceleration can only happen, again, when we have been able to master our lower frequencies, our childhood traumas, the stories, the core traumas and outdated beliefs and systems, and how can we persevere. And so when we talk about the 3D, there's also these moments where we have to see where there's separateness and division and that duality. And if there was any year that showed it, it was this year, with the most insane elections year, that we've seen. And I was going to do an episode about like the 2020 election being over, now what? But I wasn't expecting to see it unfold as it did, in a way of, like the way it is. I don't even need to explain it. It speaks for itself. And the thing that we've had to see, though, is the amount of polarization that's happened in this country and in the world, and these labels and the fear and the manipulation and the controlling and the living from the ego. And again, the more you're doing the work, the more you're seeing where those patterns first originated from, those core traumas and wounds, and choosing to embark on the journey to not allow that to steer the course anymore. Again, you'll be able to use your time in this fourth dimension to be more powerful, to be that spiritual being who's really choosing to align to your purpose, and you're really choosing to shift out of this old paradigm. That's what it means to master your time and the energy that you're navigating through. And once you're able to do that, you can really navigate through this place feeling fearless and in this unity consciousness of selfless service and full sovereign embodiment. You being in your truth, where again, people can say things to you, people can have their own opinions, they can have their projections, but if you can just like stay in your centered and really do that work, there's a gift to that. And there's also an awareness of like, what is spiritual bypassing, right? And I think that's a lot of what we navigate through in the 4D, is like, where are we trying to like accelerate and move forward? And, we're not gonna even talk about that, or, that's on the back burner. We need to face the things that are happening and be opened and talk about it. And admit when we're wrong. And it takes a really courageous person to do that. And I think what this journey from 3D to 5D, from us to go from this space of, duality into a space of unity, it's about just being patient, right? To get to that space, that middle ground right there is the patience. And, we need to be patient about the way things are unfolding. We need to stay in our own lane. We need to keep our focus on and acting as in, what are we calling in? Who do we see ourselves embodying? Like, what are the habits and the ways of being we see ourselves really embodying when we're at this space that we want to be in? And how can we do it with grace? How can we do it with precision? How can we do it with a level of truth and integrity, and do it from a space from love? And we just had to continue to love ourselves. We had to continue to nourish ourselves. We need to continue to ask for help, to listen to what we need. And so this is what it means to be an embodied multidimensional leader. It's about you seeing what's going on, coming from that hawk perspective and being like, okay, this is what's happening. I'm aware of it. And how am I choosing to go about it? How am I choosing to not get pulled into it? And if it gets whatever you're going through, if maybe it's challenging or icky, how can you be gentle with yourself? How can you nourish yourself? And I just really want you to make the most of this journey that we're embarking on, and to understand that the veil is very thin right now. Whew. I had an episode when I was in Mexico with my family at the end of October, and, I don't know if it was, I don't know what it was anymore. I don't know if it was an exorcism again of me navigating and clearing and preparing to help lead into this journey we're going in. But it's been really fascinating to see what's unfolding and how the rest of this year is closing out. And just to recognize if there are levels or areas in your life where you're still insecure about, and maybe you're taking a mind-altering substance, even alcohol, that veil and, the spiritual war that's so close right now, like, it can tackle on and hook onto your field, your energy, your wounds, your trauma, like that. That's what it does. It hooks on and it does its best to really navigate you. It tries to manipulate you. It tries to control you. It tries to, steer you off course. And so these densities, these lower frequencies that are losing this war, that are trying to like Mortal Kombat, I always use that reference where it's like, finish him, right? That's coming on. If there's still unprocessed trauma stored in your lower triangle, in your physical 3D experience of that's what creates your physical 3D experience, is your lower triangle. So what was known as the lower three chakras. And this is a huge piece that I have in Thrive. And it's why I've made Thrive 30% off until the 9th of December. And I'm going to be doing the family gatherings, what I call my Thrive calls, where people can ask questions and you can save 30% off with the code HOLIDAY. Is if there's still traumas, those core wounds, the ancestral karmas, traumas, conditions, that's where it's going to cling on to you, because you need to master that, right? You have the gift of time to work through it so that you can become unified in your truth of who you are. And this is that journey between the 3D and the 5D, so we can continue to accelerate and integrate as that multidimensional being. So right now, how do we really prepare for this journey? Really stay away, again, from those mind-altering substances, plant medicines, alcohol. If you're really sensitive to caffeine, just do what you need to do that is nourishing, not like escaping or you know what I mean? Just be really discerning on what you put into your body. Remember to meditate, right? This is the time for you to take that time to honor you. We're closing out a wild year that has gone in so many directions. It's been a huge year of self-discovery, of learning, of ups and downs, a lot, right? And so we're in these last weeks of this like wild 2020. And more than that, we are setting precedent for how we're choosing to navigate and, you know, the path we're paving to embark into this new decade. Just think about where you were in 2010. I was eating a lot of ecstasy, plain and simple. And was I then? No, I wasn't yet. 2010, I was like just getting involved in the music scene, but I was calling suicide hotlines. And, you know, I chose to say enough was enough and kind of embarking on that journey. So you need to just do what do you, right? Like, what do you need to do to honor you? But I really do suggest to take time to meditate, take time away from social media, like call a friend that you haven't talked to in a long time. If you still like feel uncomfortable about like, you know, seeing them and honoring each other's space or whatever, like FaceTime and have like a dinner date with them on a FaceTime where you guys make dinner together or something, you know, do what you need to do. But we are, again, setting precedent for how we're navigating through this decade. And that veil being thin, this is about you coming back to your breath, coming to your center. This is about you cultivating that space to integrate, to heal, and to, you know, replenish so that you can grow. It's essential right now. And the seasons are about to shift, right? We're coming up closer to the solstice on the 21st. And I'm going to be diving into that more. And I'm going to have a whole really awesome episode talking about the grand conjunction that's happening on the 21st. So the next upcoming episodes will be released on Mondays because I really want you to understand how to navigate through this energy. And I'm also going to be having a place for you to submit, you know, you fill out a little form on the sales page information and, on the show notes. And I'll also have the link in the show notes for the podcast and on YouTube on how to download your free guide with some reflection questions and a card spread to really support you to slay your solstice that's coming up. But you have to give yourself permission to honor your needs first before you can share it with others. And so we're in December. It's a time to slow down. I mean, in the Northern Hemisphere, we're getting ready for winter of hermiting and like integrating and just being, you know, reflective right now. And that's okay. I would also suggest that for you to atone and forgive. Like, don't bring shit from the past into this new year, coming into the solstice. Like, get ready to release it all. I mean, with the eclipse having, you know, a very interesting shadow, the moon like facing its shadow as a Gemini with this eclipse happening in Gemini. I felt it really intense. But with the last quarter moon coming up before preparing for the solstice, just give yourself that permission to, you know, leave it all behind and forgive. If anything, it's what's hurting you. It's what's holding you back. And remember to take time away from technology again and get back into nature, connect with your animals, go on a hike. You know, if you're not in snow, find some running water. And if you are in snow, go allow that inner child to play. We're all navigating through this shift together. That's something I really want you to understand and to really embrace. And most of all, as we're navigating through these wild times, just please remember to play and have fun. Life is meant to be lived. And if you are just being confined, stuck in your head, stuck in your traumas, your pains, these limiting stories, you're doing yourself a disservice. And again, we need all hands on deck. We're calling forth multidimensional leaders to really be embodied in their sovereign truth so that we can come together and dismantle the matrix. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm really here. I'm really driven more than ever to help these. It makes me emotional. I'm really here to help these sacred disruptors really and activate them to be in their sovereignty, their full truth, their power, not what anyone tells them, not what society, not what their family, not what their upbringing, conditioning tells them who they need to be, but who are you supposed to be? Who are you here to be? Not supposed to be. Who are you here to be? And give yourself permission to go there, because that's how you break free from the control, from the chains, from the shackles that are holding you back from really expressing your truths, your gift, and your beauty as you. And so just again, I'm excited to be sharing more tools, more experiences, more insights and wisdom. And this is something I'm going to be dedicating more of the space to. Like when I first started this podcast, being very discerning on which guests I bring in and creating more of these solo episodes. And there's going to be a lot coming up in 2021. But in the meantime, I'm here with you as we embark on this journey, and just remember to be kind to one another, be kind to your loved ones who may not be as spiritually advanced as you, or whatever term you want to use, whatever. There's not like a hierarchy, but we just need to really be compassionate during these times because shit's wild. It's really wild times, but we got this. And I just want to thank you for being on this journey with me. And again, if you look in the show notes, you can join the waitlist to get the Slay Your Solstice guide. And if you want to, again, join Thrive and start to clear out more of that third dimensional 3D muck, the stories, the outdated beliefs, from now until the 9th of December with the code HOLIDAY, you can save 30% off, and then you're going to be able to join our family gathering that we're going to be doing right before Hanukkah. And I'm really excited just to support you and help you in any way possible. And stay tuned, because next week I'm going to be talking about my experience about the New Age to Jesus movement. And I'll also be having Natalie Miles coming up, and I'll be talking about the big 12/21/2020 grand conjunction solstice. But I love you and thank you for your love and support. And I'll be seeing more of you soon. Take care. Sat Nam.